you can't let sparks of inspiration go because you're scared or because you have these limiting beliefs. You have to go all in. Otherwise, you will spend your life wondering why you're still in the same spot and why you can't get anywhere. Well, it's because you don't take any risks. And if you have a talent or you have a skill or you have a subset of, things in your Rolodex that could utilize that could be utilized in a way that helps other people and grows something, why the hell are you not taking advantage of that? Hey, I'm Jessica Cruz, and you're entering A World Gone Good.
Well, hello, my name's Steve, and this is the place where we shine the light on everyday people making good happen each and every day. Welcome to World Gone Good. If you enjoyed today's episode, please, yes, share today's episode with your friends and fam. Spread the good around, spread it far, spread it wide. That sounds dirty. Don't be dirty, okay? Be a little bit dirty, just be a lot of it good. Every time you share our show, you bring more people, good people, to this here party. And for doing so, we say, as always, thank you. Today we begin with a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert! I am vegan. I think you already knew that. But anyway, and one of my favorite things about being vegan is when someone asks me, but don't you miss meat? My answer is always the same. I can turn anything vegan. So yeah, I'm good. And I can. Because as my good guests and I agree, it's not about the meat, baby. It's about the flavor. Again, why are you making this dirty? Stop it. Jessica Cruz loves flavor as much as I do, and that's how I say it, flavor. So much so, she created Vegan Street Fair, an event that's taken over multiple cities across the nation in the best way possible. And make note, Vegan Street Fair isn't just for vegans, it's for everyone who enjoys an experience and wants to come together within their own community. Here comes Jessica Cruz from Vegan Street Fair to share her own good story. We have with us today I'm going to try that again because I said today, which I am. It's fine. All right, I might keep that in. That was kind of funny. We have with us today a guest who I'm very excited to talk to for multiple reasons. But we're going to start in a place that I think she's expecting. It's the most obvious question. I'm sure she gets it asked way too often. And here it comes. You were an American Gladiator.
How did you know that? Where did you find this, Steve?
See, that's not the question she thought I was going to ask her. I do this to people all the fucking time. I had somebody on who was on Wheel of Fortune. We did the whole damn show. At the very end, I said, I have one final question. I'm sure you get asked this way too often. What was Wheel of Fortune like? And she went, how did you find out about that?
Yeah, because it's not something that I talk about it here and there, but it's, kudos to you and your journalistic skill set, because I was not expecting to answer this question. So I did American Gladiators in 2008. I was a contestant on that show. At the time, I was a personal trainer. I had just gotten out of a breakup, and it was funny because the boyfriend that I was dating at the time didn't like watching television, didn't own a TV, just wasn't into it, and kind of made me feel weird that I liked it. So when we broke up on January 1st, I said, man, you know what? This guy never likes watching TV and feels like it's a waste of time. You know what? I'm going to be on TV. And I literally manifested, I shit you not, because it's just like 70,000 people or something that apply to the show. I was like, I'm going to be on this show. And I forced the universe. I didn't force the universe. I allowed the universe to give me the thing that I was asking for. And I have been in LA ever since because my ex-husband was a producer on that show. And we fell in love at the time, and we were married for 12 years. We have 2 children now. So I've been in LA ever since. It was probably one of the highlights of my life. It was so fascinating and so fun and so hard. But ultimately, it gave me a new life, because from there, my now ex-husband and I, fell in love, and I moved from New York to Los Angeles because he was a producer in LA. And I was like, all right, well, I'm a trainer and I can do this anywhere. And that's the American Gladiators story.
Now, we have something else, which is this. I am a vegan of, let me do the math here. Let's see. I went vegan on January 1st, 2014. I went vegan because my husband had gone vegan 4 years prior. We got married 3 days before I became vegan. And I was still eating meat. Not meat, mostly fish at this point. Chicken always freaked me out. Milk always freaked me out. Even as a kid, milk just, I can't do it. And I just said to myself, we just got married. I just made this commitment to you. What am I doing?
Mm.
And then I said to myself on January 1st, yeah, it's a new year. Let me just try this for a few days. Let's see how it goes. And I've been vegan ever since. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a perfect vegan. I've had eggs. I think I've had fish once or twice over the last 10 plus years. What is a big question? What was your vegan moment?
My vegan moment started at SeaWorld in 2009. It was 2009? 2010. Sorry, it was 2010. And, I swam with the dolphins, having this experience that everybody has because you're supposed to do that. And they look so happy. They look like they're smiling. And you're like, oh my God, this is such a beautiful experience, right? So wrong. I posted photos from SeaWorld, swimming with the dolphins, having this experience. And a friend of mine who was not a vegan by any means, I don't know if he DM'd me or he commented, but he said something to the effect of, hey, I don't know if you know this, but those animals do not want to be there. And I was like, what? I was like, dude, and of course I got defensive because I just had this magical experience, or so I thought. And I was like, no, SeaWorld does amazing things. How dare you? Let me prove you wrong. And I spent a half a day Googling about marine parks and how those animals get there. And within 5 minutes, I swear, I was bawling my eyes out, discovering the atrocities that happen in the places that, like we kind of know what happens in factory farms. We kind of know what happens with animal testing. But at the time, this was before Blackfish, people weren't necessarily talking about zoos and marine parks to the extent that they do now. So I was just blown away by little details such as dolphins and any of these mammals. They will repeatedly ram their heads against their enclosures to try to get themselves out of this misery, right? They're trying to kill themselves. They're so freaking smart, but they can't get out. So they're like, this is the only way out. They're on antidepressants. A lot of them are, they are used to breed other people. And the only way to get their sperm is obviously somebody has to jerk them off. And, I know, I don't know if this is a family-friendly show, but
well, it's not anymore, but it's fine. Keep going.
You crossed the line. So I was within an hour or two. I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. And you're learning about Taiji. I don't know if you know anything about Taiji, but it's basically where, there's a time of the year where Japanese boats, you know what I'm talking about? They will corral dolphins into.
There was a whole documentary on this.
The whole documentary. It's called The Cove.
No, yes, The Cove.
Yes. And they will corral these animals into a cove and they will find the most trainable. And now these are families, right? These are families no different from mine and yours. And so once they find the most trainable, they pluck them out of their pods, which again, these are highly intelligent, highly socially developed animals. They're losing a family member in front of their very eyes. And then what these people do is they will murder every single one that's left because they're of no use to them. So they kill them all and the water runs red. So these are the things that I discovered. And I was like, oh, no. Like, I never want another living being to ever suffer for my enjoyment ever again if I can help it. And it was pretty much an overnight switch for me. I think like I bought a pair of leather shoes, not realizing it, maybe 8 months later. And I was like, okay, and I maybe had one slice of cheese back home in New York because I'm from New York and you have to have cheese pizza, but it was my last one ever. I got super, super freaking sick. And I was like, okay, thanks universe. I hear you. Got it. I have not looked back since. I've been vegan 15 years now.
Okay, let me say a few things. First of all, I went in for a pitch meeting for a project I had in 2018 to the company that produced The Cove. And I'm in this, like a meeting room, a conference room, waiting for them. And they have all the posters up, and there's the Cove poster. And so these executives come in, two of them. They're very nice people. They sit down, and me, like a jackass, because I've seen The Cove, I'm like, oh, I saw that. I loved it. And then I'm like, wait, what did I just say? Like, that moment? I want to ask you this specifically to this because it all relates. You feel connected. You feel emotional. You feel empathetic toward something that you saw happen, that you made this adjustment in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you've done your whole life? Have you always been a very sympathetic, empathetic person? Have you been somebody who's like, looked at the underdog, or was that one of those moments where you're like, wait, what am I doing? And that was a bell, what do they call it? A bell tower? No, I'm saying that wrong. A bell worthy, a bell something moment. I'll look that up later too.
Oh, that's so, oh no.
Bellwether, a bellwether moment. I just came up with it.
Well done.
See?
Yeah.
I'm not fully drunk at 11 o'clock in the morning.
But if you were, we wouldn't judge you for it. I think that I've always kind of been a person that looks at things from a different perspective than what I was raised as. I have a tattoo of a black sheep on me because ever since I was little, I've just been different from the people around me. I grew up in the Bronx. I have, cultural background that will dictate anybody's upbringing. You're born into the circumstances you're born into, and then you have to move within those confines. And I think I've always just been someone who has been empathetic, which, we could get deep into this, but we won't do that today. Empathy now as an adult is kind of fucked up because as an adult, you kind of realize that maybe you're not empathetic. Maybe it's just trauma. And I say that because when you go through, let me not sugarcoat any of this. I grew up very, very, I'm just going to say it, abused. So these are things that I don't necessarily share openly, but physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, I have since forgiven my mom for this. And it's kind of a very vulnerable thing for me to share, especially on a podcast, but I feel like I'm safe to do that with you, Steve, and all these audience members that are here. And I don't think that you realize that as you grow in this environment that you kind of carry empathy around with you as a badge. But really what it is you just want to be loved and you just want to be seen. And so because of those things, you tend to see others and the world with the same lens as you. And you're like, I just want to love all of these people. And I just want to see all of these people. And I just want them to be whole. And I just want to be here for them. And oftentimes when you grow up like that, and I'll say this straight up, you develop coping mechanisms to keep being quote unquote empathic, but really what you're doing is abandoning yourself over and over and over again. And I say that because with Vegan Street Fair, and I'm sure we'll get into that shortly, there's a bit of a codependent relationship that I have with it because the empathy that I hold for the vendors and for the attendees and for the movement itself and the animals always puts me in a position that hurts me in the end. Does any of that make sense? Am I being
No, it does. I mean, yes, it does. It's such a fine line of what you're talking about because it's a realization about ourselves that I think that I found over the years in myself is being okay with allowing other people to be right where they are. And that goes back to all the things we grew up with because I had some difficulties in my childhood. I know very few people who didn't have difficulties except for the fucking Brady Bunch kids.
Right.
And that's what we were given, right? And that's why we all ate that up. I mean, that's a great, if I do say so myself, a great example. We came home and watched repeats of the Brady Bunch because goddamn would I would have been loved to be that family. Not that my family was always terrible, but there were times, and questioning things. But it is that thing of allowing myself to be right where I am. And the key thing that you said is not just forgiving others. I found a way to forgive myself because Not that I allowed anything to happen in my life or didn't allow, but it does get to a point where you have to just say, I'm going to say that I've apologized for my behavior, but I'm also going to allow myself to apologize to myself for feeling that way and for living that way.
Oof.
Look at how deep we are, people.
Steve, I don't know if you know this, but you should have a podcast.
Oh my God. You know what I should have as a podcast? Okay. Speaking of which, because you also, you've also had something, you had something really important. Your last name is Cruz.
Yes.
We're going to assume with a last name like Cruz, you have a Latina background. Here's a great question to start with. Can you explain to everybody the difference between Hispanic and Latino?
Oh God. See, why are you going to ask me that? I would have need to do a deep dive on this just to make sure that I'm answering correctly. But I will say Hispanic are people from like Hispaniola, right? Like Spaniard.
Spain. Yeah, right.
Even, I don't even know if Portuguese fits in there. I could be botching this, but Latina is from Latin American countries. So Latinos come from any place in the Latin area. So I'm Puerto Rican. I am Latina. I also have Spanish blood. Therefore, I'm also Hispanic. But it is not, from what I understand, it's not one and the same. I don't want to botch that. And I feel like other Latinas are going to come for me if I'm getting this wrong, but I'm just going to, I think that that's my understanding of it. So hopefully I nailed that. If I didn't, please forgive me. Don't take my Latin card, please.
We won't. But here's the thing too, with that background, your family, there's certain classic dishes. There's certain classic events that take place, quinceañeras and weddings and all sorts of wonderful things. And there's food at those locations. And you walk in with your little badass self and announce, I love dolphins. I went to SeaWorld. Fuck all of you. I'm vegan now. No, just kidding. Maybe you did do that. I don't know. But what was the response from your family when you came out of the vegan closet?
Oh my God. So the first instance of my family sharing their views was on Thanksgiving in 2010. I was home in New York at the time. I was back at NYU just finalizing a couple credits. I'll never forget this. I was sitting at a very, very small table with 4 people and a ginormous dead bird in front of me. And I had just been vegan like 4 months. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. I couldn't escape it. There was nowhere to go. It was 4 of us. Okay. It was my mom. It was me. It was my grandmother and her husband. And so I'm telling them that I'm vegan and I'm telling them, that I can't eat the bird or whatever. And thankfully my grandmother had made food for me that didn't have any meat or lard or whatever. And my grandmother's husband says to me, he goes, why would you do that? Like, why would you even go vegan? This doesn't make sense. You're Puerto Rican. Like, there's all this amazing food. What are you doing? And I was like, well, look, I'm doing this for me. It just feels better for my soul. I don't need to eat it. We live in this society and I feel very comfortable not eating animals anymore. I've done it my whole life. And this is more ethically aligned with my heart or whatever the fuck I said to him, something to that effect. And he said something to me that I've never forgotten, and I'll tell you why in a minute. He said to me, I could never, because I'd rather die happy. And 2 years later, this man dropped dead in front of my grandmother of a fucking heart attack. And that was, quote unquote, his dying happy. And I'm like, bro, like, obviously there's nothing to say now. The man is dead and, rest his soul. But it's like, my grandmother had to watch you die from something that's kind of preventable because you wanted to die happy. Like, is it really just about you? Because for me, this lifestyle is not just about me. It's about these animals, right? It's about the environment. It's about something so much bigger than me. And I think because we live in a society that is so egocentric and all of us just move around the world thinking that it's just about us and no one else matters. That is the response that you have when someone shows you something that you could never do. It's like, yeah, that just doesn't serve me. That just doesn't work for me. Yeah, but what about other people, right? Like,
yeah, and you have to, what we were just talking about, you have to let him be where he was in that moment.
That's it.
And that's so hard to do. And the thing is, too, is that I feel so many people, his thing saying he just wanted to be happy also equates to he was not going to make any change because so many things are changing around us, right? I mean, God, the pandemic and the lockdown and the last couple of years we've had and all the political stuff and the wars and everything that's going on in the planet heating up the way it's never heated up before. And we all are being faced with this thing of you have to change. But there's a giant fear with that. And there's a giant stubbornness with it. And I say this so often on the show, Kathy Freston, New York Times bestselling author, lives here in town with me. We're actually friends. She invited us over for cocktails the other night.
Humble brag, guys.
Humble brag. But she always talks, we don't need a planet of perfect people.
Yeah.
We just got to lean in a little bit. And it's so interesting to me that he'd rather stay in his right than even lean into something that would have allowed for him to even still be here.
Right. And look, he, eventually we all go. And maybe, he could have prolonged his life a little bit more. Who knows? I think everything you just said is spot on. We just, things that feel uncomfortable to us as humans, we just want to run away from, and we don't even want to consider how they could potentially change our lives or help our lives or improve the lives of the people around us. And so we'd rather stay where we are. And those are the stories we've told ourselves. And we tell ourselves stories every single day. We tell ourselves stories about people. We tell ourselves stories about circumstances. We tell ourselves stories that I think tend to sometimes keep us stuck in behaviors and patterns that won't elevate us.
And feel safe.
Exactly. It feels safe to you to not step outside of the box, which is fine.
But let's make something very clear here to everybody listening right now. Vegan doesn't equal healthy.
Say it. Say it louder.
That is one of the biggest things I can tell everyone over and over, because people do say to me oh, this whole vegan thing, you think you're better than me. And I'm like, I don't think I'm better than you because I'm vegan. ... I got a lot of other reasons I'm better than you.
Yes.
But vegan does not equal healthy.
No, it sure doesn't. It sure doesn't. Nope. People don't know that. And I get that question, comment, concern almost every single day on my page, because I think that sometimes the documentaries and some of the influencers make it seem like it's a health movement, when really veganism has zero to do with healthy eating. Veganism is legitimately simply a liberation movement, not dissimilar to, Black rights and gay rights and women's rights, right? These are all movements to push forward a marginalized group. You don't have to look a certain way or be healthy to come and fight for LGBTQIA plus rights. You don't have to do that. You just show up. That's the job. That's the mission. And I find it so odd when people conflate veganism with health, because it's not for health. And if you require someone to show up to veganism being quote unquote healthy, you don't understand what it actually is about. You can have vegan cupcakes, you can have vegan donuts and burgers and deep fried all the things. Is it healthier? Inherently, yes, it's healthier because it doesn't have cholesterol. But is it healthy? No, it's not. It's not meant to be. And that is a consistent problem that I see in the vegan community all the time. I'm like, we have to stop putting the two things in the same category, because they are simply not. You can be a healthy vegan. I'm a healthy vegan. I eat pretty healthy most of the time, but it's not a requirement. It's not, that's not the cost of entry at the door. You just have to show up and give a shit about animals. That's really it.
It's a byproduct, I think, in some ways, just like it's a byproduct that it's better for the planet. And, again, I talk about this stuff way too much on this show. I have a composter. I have a rain barrel. We are a 1-car family, and the car happens to be a hybrid. Am I perfect? No. But in my little corner of the world of where I live, I'm doing everything I can to help the planet. And in turn, that helps us. That helps me. And we'll still be here and be better. Let's move on then to, you wake up one day, you're like, I fucking love food. I love people. I want to communitize things. That's a word I just made up. I'm going to create a vegan street fair. And literally 10 minutes later, everyone listening, it's in 50 cities around the world and making millions of dollars. No, what happened? Tell us.
Yes. Oh, God. What are you doing to me? I can't be thinking about this right now. I'm a one-woman show. Um,
Me too.
right, you get it. That would be the freaking dream, you know? It would be the freaking dream.
What was the spark, though?
The spark was I went back to New York for 4 months after living in LA for a couple of years to finish my degree. And I was newly vegan in this city that I knew like the back of my hand. And I was like, you know, I want to try as many vegan places as I possibly can while I'm here. So I'm going to use all these apps to like get me to these places. And I was using Happy Cow, which I love Happy Cow, so this is never a knock to them. I was using Happy Cow and something else. And oftentimes I would get on a subway to go to a place that these apps would send me to. And I'd show up 45 minutes later, hangry as ever. And the place would be shut down or the hours would be off. And I would be like, get the fuck out of here. And I'd have to get back on the fucking subway, go all the way back to where I was. And now I'm pissed. And I'm like, this is not cool. So I had decided, this is all going to come loop around in a minute. I promise. I'm not just telling a random tangent. I decided that I was going to make an app myself. Now, I am not an app developer whatsoever, but of course, being a Pisces and being a little delusional, I was like, I'm going to make an app. And I taught myself how to do wireframes. I taught myself how to build entire PDFs. I taught myself how to create structure for databases. And then I hired a developer to put this app together, as well as people to populate the database. Because I was like, you know, we need apps that are up to date. We need apps that are user focused, but I want to gamify it so that it's exciting for people. And we hired someone for like 15 grand to put this app together. And eventually, 3 years into this app development, the developer disappeared. And we were like, what the hell? What's happening? And it was kind of earth-shattering. We did end up getting our money back, but it was earth-shattering in the way that, you know, 3 years of hard work and this dream and this vision just kind of fell away. But the interesting thing is it led the way to vegan street fair, because in the wake of this, I realized that I had this database of all of these restaurants in Los Angeles. And I was like, you know, if I tried to eat at all these places, it would take me 10 years. But what if I create an event where they all come to me instead? And that is literally how Vegan Street Fair was born. Was something had to, like, one door had to close for another one to open. And it has been 10 years since that fated situation created this beautiful, magical, iconic event series that we have been hosting across the country.
It's so amazing because what a thing you said that I love is you're like, what if it all came to me? not what if I did this for the whole city? What if all the food came to me, to my belly? I fucking love that. That's hilarious. You know, I've told this on here before. Again, my apologies to my longtime listeners. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was putting up all these plays, and all these women were friends of mine, actors in LA, were coming to see it. And they'd say, I have a one-woman show. I have a one-woman show. Put up my one-woman show. Put up my one-woman show. And I was just like, oh my God, all of you are driving me fucking crazy. Like 50, 60, 70 women coming at me, put up. And I said, well, I just said this out of frustration one day. One of them, like, I'll just put up all your shows. And I went, wait a minute. And this is before American Idol. This is before The Voice or any of these shows. I said, what if I did put up all the shows? What if we did a show that's called, and I came up with it, my friend actually helped me name it, Gina, 15 Minutes of Femme. Each woman's given 15 minutes, 4 women a night, 1 hour. At the end of the night, you vote. 8 shows, 8 winners, and the prize is meeting with casting directors, because I knew casting directors at the time. And it came together so fast. But it was the same kind of thing of like, wait a minute, I have it all right in front of me. All I have to do is give them the space. So it's that crazy like moment. And I have to tell you, the tickets were always $10. We sold out every show. We always had almost $3,000 pushing forward to the next show, which always paid off, you know, the theater for the next. So here's a deposit. Yeah, no problem. We got a roll going. So that said, what was like the first restaurant you went out to? Were you nervous? Did you call them? Did you email them? Was it a friend? Were you like, I got this crazy idea? Or were you already like, I got a logo? I don't know.
Yeah. I have to, by the way, that's such a beautiful story. And thank you for sharing that. Cause I love to connect with people who do things that may seem impossible or may seem far-fetched. And they're like, no, whatever that spark was that told you to do it.
It's because it's right there in front of you. And if you ignore it, you're an idiot.
Yeah, you're an idiot. And you will regret that for the rest of your life. Let's keep it real. Right? Like you can't let sparks of inspiration go because you're scared or because you have these limiting beliefs. You have to go all in. Otherwise, you will spend your life wondering why you're still in the same spot and why you can't get anywhere. Well, it's because you don't take any risks. And if you have a talent or you have a skill or you have a subset of, things in your Rolodex that could be utilized in a way that helps other people and grows something, why the hell are you not taking advantage of that? And so thank you for sharing that, because I think more people need to take risks on themselves, especially in knowing who they are. Because I think a lot of people just don't know who they are.
And go ahead and fail. Because I failed way more times. And listen, hey, great little moment here. You fucking failed in the best way possible with your app. And look what happened.
Say it.
Good job, failure.
Yes, fail. Even my last event, I can't tell you the amount of times people told me, even the week before. So I was about $15,000 short of this event series that has been going on for 10 years, that the vendors make a ton of money at. Attendees look forward to every year. It's been going on for a decade. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Even then, like, people were like, just quit, like, just give it up. And I remember telling one of my friends that was telling me that, I was like, if I do that, my reputation is done. Like, I can never host another vegan event in my life. I'd have to step away from the vegan community, period, as a whole. And I'd owe people hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like that's not the option. I can't do that. And she was like, you're going to be fine. It's going to be okay. Like, I think that's what you have to do. And my little delusional self was like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to push forward. And every single day, I made so many calls, sent so many text messages, DM'd people I haven't talked to in forever, random people that have nothing to do with veganism whatsoever, just to turn over every leaf and check under every single stone to see if there was somebody that could help me. And so my financial failure led me to being rescued from this situation, hosting this event that went off beautifully, thank God. And now I'm in a very different situation, which is people are now looking to send me money to invest in what it is that I do, and they don't want anything back in return. Imagine, I was just talking about this yesterday with my friend. Imagine if I had given up before this. Imagine if I had taken her advice and said, okay, I'm just going to quit this. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to go into hiding for a little while. I'm going to find a way to make money. I'm going to go have to work for somebody else. I would have missed out on these incredible opportunities that are now coming my way. And that failure led me here. And I think that's the best part about just trusting in the process. Because when you fail, it allows you to pivot in ways that bring you closer to what it is that you've been putting so much sweat equity into for however long you've been doing it. But if you quit too soon, when you're right at the edge, you'll never get there.
And that, my friends, is the perfect place for us to hit the good pause button. We'll continue our oh-so-good conversation with Jessica on our next all-new episode, where she shares the ups and downs of running her own business, how she handles unsolicited advice and suggestions, and her journey through breast cancer. Bet you didn't see that last part coming, now did ya? Can't wait to share the rest of this with you in part 2 on our next episode. Until then, be good.